So in the past 90 days, I've generated $180,000 with the call funnel for one of my clients. And I'm making this video with the sole purpose of helping you build your call funnel from scratch, or if you already have one, making sure it is a much more profitable one. So I can promise you that no matter what stage you're at with your info business currently, you're going to walk away from this video in a much better position to be making much more money with your offer, with your coaching offer, than what you're currently doing. So let's get started. So before we get into the techniques, here's the proof. So as you can see, from October 21, 2025 to January 21st, 2026, we generated $174,000, and one or two payments were direct payments, so they weren't recorded over here. Now, a quick note before we actually get into the sauce is that quite a few things that I'm going to mention in this video are not things that I came up with myself. So I didn't invented them. They are things that I learned from other people running successful info businesses, and I simply refined them and tailored them for my clients depending on data. And this is just one of the results that I was able to generate. We're going to talk about the 4 pillars that you need to actually build a highly profitable call funnel, which in my opinion is the most reliable and for sure one of the best methods to build your info business and start printing with your coaching offer. So we're going to talk about the metrics, the content, the sales systems, and then we're going to talk about the sales team. Starting with the metrics, in order to make decisions and take the right steps, you must first know exactly what's the problem at hand. How are you supposed to fix a problem or take a decision if you don't even know what's the bottleneck? What exactly is the problem? So that's why I started with metrics, because the strategies and the tactics that we're going to talk about when we get into the content and we get into the sales systems, they're all just a means of getting there, to achieving these numbers, these KPIs, these metrics that we define as success. Because once we understand the metrics, only then can we identify the bottlenecks and take data-driven decisions that will actually move the needle. So it's going to turn our business into a simple mathematics when we actually know what we are trying to achieve. And these are the 6 most important KPIs, key performance indicators in your business. Only 6 ways that you can actually grow your info business and start making more money is by increasing one of these. You cannot do any other thing but increase one of these. And so number 1 is of course the landing page views or the impressions, how much traffic that you're bringing in. The second is that those who are actually landing on the landing page, who are coming to your across your offer, how many of them are actually taking action. So in the case of a call funnel, that action is filling out the application. So conversion rate is defined as how many people actually landed up on our landing page and then how many actually started filling out or completed their application. That's the conversion rate. The third KPI is the qualified application percentage, which is that from these people who actually filled out the application and took action, how many of them are actually qualified for us to work together. And so if this is very low, if you're getting a lot of traffic, if there are a lot of people who are filling out the application but the qualified application percentage is very low, then that is a very clear indication that the problem is that you're in just attracting broke audience, or you're attracting the wrong ICP. Then the fourth KPI is qualified application to booked calls percentage. So how many people who are actually qualified ended up booking call with us. And the fifth one is show up rate. So those people who booked the call, how many of them showed up, and then those who showed up, how many of them were closed. These are the 6. The 7th way is by increasing price, but that's not a KPI, right? So these are the 6 KPIs, the most important things that you should probably know by the back of your hand. And the strategies and the pillars that we are going to get into are just a way of increasing these. So the next pillar that we are going to talk about is content, and that's going to increase the number of views that we are getting. So thus the landing page views, we're gonna attract people who actually are intentful and want to buy from us, and they're the exact ICP that we are trying to attract, and because of that we can increase our conversion rate and our qualified application percentage. And then the sales systems that we're going to get into are there to make sure that those people who are actually booking call, they first of all, the qualified application, make sure they book call, then increasing the show up rate and close rate. So now we know exactly what it is that we are trying to fix, and now we can actually get into the strategies and the tactics to get there. So the second pillar, which probably a lot of the coaches and info product owners are struggling with, is content. Now the goal of the content, let me define this first, because it's no benefit for us to be talking about the tactical work and the strategies if we are not on the same page. The goal of your content is to bring as many qualified leads into our funnel as possible. That's it. We are optimizing for customers, not views. We don't want to go viral, we want to make money. So if you're watching this video and you want to grow your coaching offer, your info business, you're probably here to make money. And you should remember, and I want to really emphasize this point, that you are a business owner doing content, not a content creator with a side gig. And when you really understand that you're building a personal brand with the primary goal of making money, then you should also understand that your offer must come before your content. It's what most people get wrong. They think that we're going to post random pieces of content, we're going to accumulate an audience, and then we're going to sell the thing. No. You should know exactly what is it that you're trying to sell. What's the offer? And your offer then serves as the guiding line for your content. Every piece of your content that you're making is basically guided from the offer that you're trying to sell, because you need to understand your ICP, and your offer tells you exactly who your customer is, or in other words, your ideal client profile is. And the better you understand this ICP, the better job you can actually do attracting this, because our goal was, of course, attracting as many people to our funnel. And so if you don't understand who you are speaking to, who you want to attract, then how are we supposed to do that? And I want you to think about this, right? So let's say that you're making content for Joe down the street. Now this Joe is somebody that you've grown up with your entire life, and you've played with him in your entire life since you were 5, and you know him very well. He's your best friend. Now if you want to make content or a video for this guy, you know exactly what to say, you know exactly how to say it, the language to use, and the thought process of the person, Joe, watching it, and his reaction to every single word that you say. And because of that, the content that you're making for Joe will resonate with him at a much, much deeper level, and will be able to accomplish its purpose much impactfully. And so that is the level that we are trying to get to with our ICP. But that won't be possible until you actually have a good understanding of who your ICP is. So that's why it helps if you actually accomplish the things that you're talking about. So if you're talking about, building e-com stores, or, scaling your SMMA to 6 figures, and you've actually done it, then it becomes an easier job, because all you're doing is making content for the past, younger, confused version of yourself. And that person, you know him very well. Once you understand the ICP, let's talk about what we are exactly trying to do with our content. So your content must do all three. The first one is building trust and rapport with your audience. So if they don't trust you, if they don't like you, then no matter what you say, no matter what the thing that you're presenting them, how valuable it is, you're presenting it to them, they don't care, because they're going to be continuously skeptical of you. The second thing is you're going to shift beliefs. We all are not living in the same world. We all are living in different realities, and our realities made up by our beliefs, what we actually believe to be true, or the rules that we set for ourselves, the identity that we put in ourselves, right? And so your content must shift beliefs so that we can make sure you and your audience are on the same page, and only then what you give them makes sense. So the third thing is actually building that expertise and authority, providing them value. And your content ecosystem must do all three for it to be successful. Now, notice over here that I said content ecosystem and not one piece of content. I didn't say video. The reason for that is that not all pieces of content will do all three. Maybe one of them is only building trust, another one of them is focused highly on providing value, but you need to understand the buyer's journey. So how do actually people buy? Now, of course, it largely varies depending on your ICP and your demographic, but on a very broad level, what is happening is that there is no clear funnel. There's no that somebody watched an Instagram reel, came to your YouTube, watched one video, and came to your VSL and book a call with you. That is not how things really work. What is happening instead is that somebody watched a video, they said, oh, I like this guy. They came to your Instagram, they followed you, and then they saw a couple of reels, they got reminder of you again, stumbled across another one of your videos, found it valuable again, and they repeat this cycle of seeing you on your stories and your Instagram, and then coming to your YouTube and watching one or two another videos. And eventually what happens is that they have built up enough trust and rapport, you have shifted enough beliefs so they're on the same page, and you have built enough expertise that they will be ready to book a call. And so that's why our content ecosystem must do all three. So there are a lot of ways that you can actually set up your content ecosystem. But what I found to be the best, working the best for my clients specifically, is that you have your Instagram, and then from your Instagram, the main purpose is to funnel people into your YouTube. And from your YouTube, then we are sending them to your landing page, which has a VSL, and then your sales assets. But when we are talking about content, Instagram is exposing us to a wider audience, bringing us more eyeballs, and primarily it is used for the first content principle, which is building trust and rapport, because it's a place where you can show authenticity, you can talk about the things that you love, and you can do more than just value based transactions. And that's why it builds a lot of trust and rapport, and it is also intent to communicate with your audience. So for launches, for stories, you can easily communicate with your audience, and that's why it's very valuable. The second, however, platform is YouTube, and YouTube is king. It's the best platform if you want to scale your info business and build a sustainable coaching offer through organic. Then YouTube is a must, and YouTube is where we are actually shifting beliefs and establishing our expertise through providing them value. It's where we warm up these eyeballs that we attracted through Instagram and then turn them into interested leads. And don't worry, I'm going to walk you through exactly how we do that on YouTube and Instagram. So what are the types of content that you should actually be posting? So there are 5 buckets that I've divided this into, and I think that almost every single piece of content that you're going to post will fall under these 5 buckets. And this is all that you should be posting. Number 1 is personal case studies. And this is something that so many coaches, so many creators who want to sell info get wrong, because they're constantly teaching people how to, or how you can start doing this, how to do this, instead of leading with how I. And that's why if you see the title of this video, it's how I made $180,000 in 90 days or whatever it is, but it's a personal case study. Because if people don't know you right now, and you don't have an already, reputation, something like that, and you're just starting out, then they don't give a shit. Sorry to break it to you, but they really don't care. And so that's why you have to lead with personal case studies. The second one is student case studies. These are almost the same, have the same effect, which is, it can be an interview with a student of you that you helped get results, or it can also be breakdown of how you actually helped him achieve this thing. So student interviews. The third one is documentation. And in documentation, I mean, it can be behind the scenes, it can be lifestyle content, it can be business related, it can be not business related, and generally just your lifestyle, right? And so it can be something like, instead of telling them how you did this certain thing, you actually take them behind the scenes and you show them you doing it. Or simply a trip that you take, that can also be a documentation kind of content. The fourth piece is problem solving. So this now is how you can start doing this, right? And I'm going to walk you through how to actually come up with these content ideas and what kind of videos that you should be making. But the fifth one is an insight or belief shifting. So there are often moments in our life that change so much for us, and we are constantly, we come up with this inspiration, or simply what is happening is that you saw something and it really changed the way you behave or meant something for you, and sharing that with your audience, because it is doing belief shifting, and once again it is connecting with them on a personal level, does a lot of good as well. Before I talk about the content ideas, there is something that you must understand. And even if you do all of this right that I just talked about, there is still something that if you don't take care of, you're just going to get lost in the sea of other creators, other coaches making the same kind of content. And that is consistency. And I'm not talking about consistency in making every single week. Hopefully you already know that by now. I'm talking about consistency in your messaging. So you need to remember that inconsistent is equals to forgettable and untrustworthy. And what that means is that, let's say I'm talking to people who want to start a social media marketing agency, and one day I'm posting a video about how you should do cold outreach because it's the best thing in the world and this is the only thing that you should worry about. And then the second day I post a video about how cold outreach is dead and you should start posting content. And on the third day I tell how content is a waste of time and you should start running ads. Will you trust me? My channel is going to be like, a news channel. It's just reporting and sharing everything and anything. There's no consistency. So that's why you ask yourself that, what is my unique mechanism? Whatever niche you're in, whatever it is that you're teaching to your audience, what is your unique mechanism? What makes you stand out? How do I stand out from the sea of other people making the same kind of content? What do I want to associate myself with and get known for? And why would my ICP choose me over all the others? Now, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to come up with something out of this world that is, never heard of. No. But what you do need is a UVP, which is a unique value proposition, something that you get known for. Because if you can coin a term and you can get known for this thing, even if it's not the entire thing, but a small mechanism within the thing that you're teaching, then people who will just follow your footsteps and use the same terms are doing marketing for you. And I want to give you a very good example for this. So think about the biggest personal brands and you'll immediately come up with something you associate them with. So for example, when Iman was at the peak of selling his SMMA offer, he was known for something known as drop servicing. Now it was nothing new, but he just coined a term and he was teaching people how to get a $3,000 client and make people work for $300 and you're the middleman. Similarly, let's talk about Breast Skills. He's someone who's making a lot of money currently in the market. And you'll notice that all he's teaching people is literally a social media marketing agency. But notice how he never uses that term, because it's oversaturated. Instead, what he did, he made a new term, freelance brand scaling. What the hell is freelance brand scaling? It's nothing. It's the same thing. But now, whenever somebody makes that content, there are a lot of people teaching people how to do freelance brand scaling. Who do people immediately think of? It's press kits, of course. So make sure that there's a signature way of doing stuff, something that you know, that you're known for, something that is consistent within every piece of content that you post. Now, I want to talk about YouTube. So in order to fulfill the content principles that we just talked about, which are 3, so building trust and rapport, shifting beliefs, and establishing authority, our viewers must spend more time with us. The more time that they spend with us, the better job that we can do fulfilling these 3 principles. Of course, that's very common knowledge. Now, that's the reason why YouTube brings the best leads compared to any other platform, because you're posting long form content in which not only one piece of video can do multiple of the content principles, but also do it at a much deeper level. So somebody who spends an hour with me on YouTube, how many reels does that guy have to see? And still it won't have the same effect, because YouTube videos just connect at a deeper level, right? So you already know the famous Google study, which says that people have to spend an average of 7 hours and different touch points to actually view. And so now, to speed up this process, you use YouTube, because you're posting long form content. And on top of that, people who watch YouTube, there's something extremely important, which is that people who watch YouTube watch your content with intent. They watched your thumbnail from a list of 100 other videos, and they had the intention to click on your video. That's why one YouTube view is never equal to one view on TikTok or Instagram, because there they just scrolled by you and they didn't have any intention. So that intention is the big thing. Here's how you come up with content ideas. So what I want you to do is simply, whatever it is that you're teaching people, let's say we are teaching SMMA, right? Continuing the same thing. So social media marketing agency, and what I want you to do is simply lay down every single step, every part of the process for the business model skill transformation that you're selling. So if I'm teaching people how to run a social media marketing agency, what I think of is that we're going to start with lead generation, because we need somebody to reach out to. Then we're going to send the initial message. Then we're going to follow up with them. Then we're going to send the Loom video. Then the sales call. Then the onboarding. Then setting up the tech, the Meta Ads account, fulfilling all of that. You just list it all out. And now what I want you to do is simply take one of the types of videos and pair it with one or more of these steps. So the type of videos that I just shared with you, the 5 buckets, and there are subcategories within it, I want you to select one of it and pair it with one or more of this step in the process. So for example, how he booked 90 calls in 36 hours. So we are using a student case study, and we're combining it with the process of lead generation, reach out, and sales calls, right? So we are teaching this, and we are pairing it with a student case study, or the exact ad strategy I used to generate $1.5 million for my clients. And once again, this is something that you're using your personal case study, and you are talking about the ad strategy, which is one part of the process. Similarly, it can be behind the scenes of running a 100K SMMA. And so this is your, lifestyle content or documentation, and you're pairing it with operations, right, on a day-to-day basis, so client management. And so what you'll notice over here is that almost every single example that I just gave you have one thing in common, and that is that it's result led. It's result first. I didn't said how to book calls for your SMMA. I didn't say how to run ads for your SMA clients. It is always result led, because as I told you, they need a reason to watch your videos, and these videos will perform much better than the latter that I just gave you, right? Other ways to come up with content ideas is that you can think about common objections that you come across on your sales call, or simply misconceptions, it's not right or it's not the best advice. Similarly, it can be market trends. So every now and then on YouTube, you'll see there are these trends that are popping off in your market, and you should utilize on these trends. Personal inspiration. So similarly, as I said, the fifth kind of content, which is just anything that you came across that had an impact on you. So personal inspiration, right? These are the ways you should come up with your content idea for YouTube. Now, reputation matters. And before I move on Instagram, this is the last thing I really want to dig into you, which is that don't be a perfectionist, but don't make bad content. And there's this line, and most people choose the polar opposites. So what they do is either they become perfectionist and they never end up posting content, or they simply post bad content and put no effort into it. You want to be in the middle. So if someone comes across your video and it's a bad piece of content, they came across your video and they simply got bored of their mind and they clicked off the video, or they simply didn't got enough value and didn't fulfill your promise, right? Their chances of coming back to your content are very thin. Not impossible, but very, very thin, especially if you're just starting out. And that is detrimental to your business, because repeated viewers are the highest potential customers. People who are continuously consuming our content have of course, the highest probability of actually buying from us. The way I think about it is that you should put as much effort into your content as you can. However, you should put strict deadlines. So I'm going to finish this video by this week or in the next 2 days. But put as much effort into it, making sure that, is the best piece of content. Now, what I like to do is that I like to use the museum strategy. And what is the museum strategy? Well, I want you to think about each one of your videos, every single piece of content that you're posting, as a piece of its own, like in a museum. It stands on its own, and it is something that is, something to be admired on its own. It's a high piece of content. And by the way, when I say that, some people immediately go to, I don't have the best equipment, I don't have the best lighting, I literally have no lights over here right now. I'm sitting in my drawing room. So that is like, that stuff matters for sure. If your camera quality or audio quality is good, there are so many other things that matter more. Stuff like your ideas. What are you making content on? Your, actually whether there's value in your content and the way you speak it. So this is a golden nugget that I want to give you, which is that almost 100% of the time, good personal brands are good at articulating and speaking. So I watch, a lot of YouTube when I'm procrastinating and, I'm just consuming this educational content. And what I notice that some people, I'm going to watch 2 videos and they're going to have the same idea. They're going to have the same stuff they're going to talk about. But one is boring. It's, just, I don't get anything in it. Whereas the other just clicks for me. And I love watching it. And what I've noticed is that almost 100% of the time, the thing that differentiates between the two is that this one knows how to actually speak well, how to articulate themselves. And this is something I'm working on. I'm not the best at it, but I'm getting better. Now, let's talk about Instagram. So I told you to narrow down and make highly targeted content specifically for your ICP on YouTube. That's the way to go. Make sure that each piece of your content, you're asking yourself the question that what role is this piece of content actually playing in my content system? in my content ecosystem? Is it building trust? Is it shifting beliefs? Is it providing value? And also, why should my ICP care and watch this piece of content, and highly targeted towards them. However, when it comes to Instagram, I don't suggest the same thing. So on Instagram, I suggest that you don't have that same tunnel vision. Your targeting should be a little broader. And a good way to think about it is that instead of attracting your ICP, which is your ideal client profile, attract your ideal follower. So if you're teaching people how to make money with ecom, maybe attract people who just want to make money online. That's a good way to think about it, right? Now, when it comes to Instagram, you're going to lean heavily on the first content principle, which is building trust and rapport. Because you should remember that people buy from people who they actually trust and they actually share the same values. And that's why, you should be authentic and focus on being as human as possible. And by human, I mean sharing behind the scenes, being a little vulnerable, showing other hobbies, showing other things, because at the end of the day, it's a personal brand. But when you do provide value and you are making content which is, sharing something, solving a problem, which is all you should worry about. How do I solve problem? Does this piece of content in Instagram, does this 1 minute video solve one specific problem for someone? And if that's it, that's a good video. But your focus should be also, how do I bring this person to my YouTube? So how does it connect to your YouTube and you can funnel them down? Now, Instagram is also amazing to make sure you always stay relevant and on top of their mind. And this is something that I've noticed. I, for example, watched a lot of great creators on YouTube, but some of them I keep coming back to, and others I just forget about, and then I think about a month later, oh yeah, there was this guy. And the reason for that is that the people who I keep coming back to, I'm continuously seeing them in front of me through Instagram. Because it's very natural that you can not have the same posting frequency on YouTube as Instagram. And so Instagram is very, very good to stay relevant and on top of your ICP's mind. The main thing I'm going to talk about, because IG Reels, we talk about the ideas and stuff, but stories is where the money is made. And this is, maybe a little surprising to all of you, but it's not the DMs, it's not the Reels, it's stories where most of the money is made. So most important rule for stories is curiosity. Think about it, right? There are people who if you see their face on stories, you almost always click it. And the reason for that is that you are curious, you have FOMO, fear of missing out. What have they posted? You want to know it, right? And the reason is that they always mix it up. They always are changing the stuff. It's never the same stuff. So if you're posting the same sequence with the same hard CTAs, people are going to get burnt out, and they're going to be able to predict what you've posted from a mile away, and that's why they're never going to click on your video. So mix it up and provide more than you actually take, right? Example, your personal wins. I just made this much with ecom today. Similarly, your student wins in your program, posted always on your stories. Similarly, you have lifestyle, so working out, going for a run, eating a good meal, whatever it is, motivation stuff, giveaways, fear of missing out, new content ideas that you just want to try out, post it on your stories. And here's the winning story sequence when you actually want to make money. So this is what we usually use when we once a week or when we are doing launches, which is that you want to post a personal win, then you want to post a bunch of student wins, and then you want to have a DM CTA, and then in the following or the same story you should have some sort of urgency and scarcity. That's the sequence that we use on Instagram stories to actually do for launches. I'm not going to go into depth because we are talking about call funnel here. With that, content is done, and the next thing is sales systems. So from our YouTube, we send people to a simple landing page with a type form where they book their call if they're qualified. Now, if our content actually did a good job and if you actually implement the stuff that I've just talked about, then we don't need to do a whole lot of selling on our landing page. And that's the reason why the better job your content does, the less and less relevant your VSL gets. Now, don't get me wrong, you should still have a basic VSL, although simple Typeform funnel, I've seen them work as well, but I still like to have a VSL. Especially the VSL becomes extremely important when you start to run ads, because of course you don't have content. Now, most coaches think that once they book a call, that's it, our job here is done, and they've of course booked a call because they want to buy from us. That is the biggest reason why they miss out on almost half of the sales. Because you need to understand something, that just because they've booked a call with us doesn't mean that they are ready to buy from us. And so that's the reason why we need sales systems, because the truth is that the sale is made before the actual sales call. And we want to basically create lay down deals for our closers, so much so that you feel like you're overpaying your closers, because it's all the closing, the sales call is just a cash collection. And that is the point that we want to reach to. And if you implement the stuff that I'm going to talk about, that will be the point that you are going to reach. So to scale to 6-figure months, you need systems to secure the deal, instead of handing over the entire sales department to one unsupervised closer who doesn't really care about your business as much as you do. So that's why we need to rely on systems that are deliberately made to make sure that all of the selling happens before the sales call. And so I'll give you 3 things to implement in your back end to get to 80% show up rate and 40% plus close rate, which is, by the way, only the top 5 to 1% of info businesses actually have these statistics. Most of the coaches either get leads who never show up half of the time, or they're not interested in buying. And so I want you to not have that problem. The first one is the post booking page. After someone books a call with us, you need to understand that this is the time when they're actually most open and even eager to hear from us. They want the information. They want us to tell them more about it. So instead of leaving them thirsty and looking elsewhere for the information and doing the research, because think about it, when you book a call with someone, if you have ever bought, or when you book an appointment, what do? After you actually make the commitment, that's when you do your research. That's when you start looking them up, reading more about it, or looking at the testimonials and stuff. And that's why it's better that the information comes from us, so that we can frame them right and pre-sell them before they even hop on the call. So that's what the post-booking page does, which they're directed to after they book a call on our calendar. Now, there are 3 important things that are on this post-booking page, and I'm going to walk you through it. So on top of this page, we have something I call as the instruction manual video. Now, this is a very short video, which is no longer than 3 minutes, and it does the following things. Number 1, it reaffirms their decision. So they want to know that they have done a good job and made the right decision by booking a call with you. We reaffirm that. Secondly, we give them the next action items. And what are the next action item, you ask? Well, first of all, you must ask them to check their inbox for emails. Secondly, they must accept the calendar invite, because oftentimes when somebody new sends a calendar invite to you, it sends it as spam. And so to avoid it, we want to make sure we communicate it to them, that make sure you accept the calendar invite so that they get those calendar reminders as well. Then you must tell them to watch the videos below, which is the second part of our post booking page, which I'm going to get into. Then the third thing that this instruction manual video does is give them instructions for the sales call. And these instructions are, first of all, make sure you tell them to attend the call on a laptop instead of a mobile. Secondly, we tell them to be well seated and take the call from home rather than driving or something like that. Third is that we tell them that if there's any other person that you like to take advice from or consult before actually making this decision, then make sure you actually bring them on the call as well. So those are the 3 things that this instruction manual video does. Then right below this video, we have the disarming videos, and this is what's the most powerful thing about your post booking page. So you need to understand that your prospects have weapons at their disposal, literal weapons that they use to say no to you, or all the reasons they use in order to not buy from you, right? So this can be any objections, any lack of information, any reason why they won't buy from you. Most coaches, what they do is that they shy away from it. They don't want to talk about that stuff or want to leave it unattended until the actual sales call. But that's the wrong thing. That's of course the wrong thing, because their chances of actually coming up on the call, they have some excuse for that as well. So what we want to do is we want to face them head on, and we do so with the disarming videos. And all they literally do, these videos, is disarm the prospects one by one of every reason why they won't buy from us. So what you're going to do is ask your sales team, first of all, for all the objections, the common objections that keep coming up on the sales call. So if you have closers, or if you don't and you're taking the calls yourself, then you would know them by the back of your hand. Or otherwise, if you haven't even started your info business yet and you're looking to start it, then just go with the hypothesis. You will know that your ICP, what are the most common reasons why what they can come up with to not buy from you. Secondly, you can also ask them, your sales team, for questions that prospect often bring up or basically questions that annoy your sales team. So questions that keep coming up, that keep asking on the sales call, make sure you take that information from your sales team. Then what you're going to do is simply make a 3 to no longer than 7-minute video handling that objection or answering that questions or whatever it is. These are short videos. Ideally they're less than 5 minutes, and we want to make them for every single objection, every single question that your prospect might have. And you want to record these videos. Instead of having one long video, you're going to make these short videos, and we're going to put it on a post booking page. The third thing in the post booking page is the social proof. So after we have the instruction manual video, the disarming video, on the bottom of your page, you're going to have as many testimonials, as much social proof as possible. Now, there's nothing more to this, but there's one more thing, which is that the rule of thumb for social proof is that in person, so when you actually sit with your students and record a video, is better than student interviews over Zoom calls, which are what we mostly do, which are better than video testimonials of just your students recording a 3-minute video for you, which is better than reviews on Trustpilot or somewhere else, which are better than screenshots. But if you don't have a lot of in-person or student interviews or reviews or whatever, make sure you just add as much information and social proof as possible over here. We want to include as many case studies as possible, and the reason for that is that you need to understand that not all case studies are same to our prospects. If they really resonate with one of them, or one of the case studies is of a person who is doing the same job or in the same position that they were in, or maybe of the same nationality, is going to do more selling than whatever it is that we can say. The second thing that we do to make sure that we stay on top of their mind and we get people on the call which are already pre-sold is pre-call email sequence. But it's not what you've been doing. So most of the coaches, for example, this particular client, when I came into his business as well, all he had was simple reminder emails. Your call is scheduled for this day, make sure you show up. Those are annoying and they don't add any value. And so instead, we're sending value dense email sequences which are structured in the same way as our disarming videos. Each email will handle an objection, answer a specific question, or talk about a particular case study, give them information, add some value. Mostly it's going to be objection handling. And we are also going to set expectation for the call as well as your program, so that we make sure that we are actually attracting people who will get better results with our program as well. Now, how to actually write these emails? Well, think about every reason your ICP can come up with to say no. Just like as I told you with disarming videos. Ask your sales team for everything they hope the prospect knows before they actually hop on the call. Now write a separate long form email about each one of them. These will be similar to your disarming videos because a lot of the stuff that we are talking about in our emails, we've already recorded a video on them. However, make sure it's not copy paste. And the way to differentiate these emails from your disarming videos is ask yourself that are there any second layer questions that your prospect might have. Once you answer the initial question, are there any other questions that might come up in their brain? And that's the way you write these long form super value dense email sequences. Now you can also direct them to a particular case study or a particular resource, a piece of content, YouTube video, which is relevant to that particular email. Because during this duration of time, which is basically the moment they book a call and the moment they actually hop on a call, we want to make sure that we're all they're thinking about. We're giving them the information and we're staying on top of their mind so they show up and they're actually pre-sold. And the frequency is something which is going to probably surprise a lot of you. So when we have value dense email sequence instead of simple reminders, with each one of these emails having a purpose, sharing something valuable with our ICP, and being actually enjoyable to read, well then there's no reason why you shouldn't be sending multiple emails a day. In fact, that's what we do. That's what you're supposed to do. You should send emails multiple times a day, and I recommend starting with 2 to 3 emails a day, and you can keep adding until you see a very significant drop in either the open rates or you receive complaints from people booking call that you are spamming them. If you don't receive these two indicators, you can probably just add more emails and you'll be surprised at how good the results they generate are. I like to keep the most important emails, which are like the biggest sales objection or the best of the case studies. I like to keep them closer to the actual sales calls. And the reason for that is that even if this duration is short and somebody booked a call, for example, in the next 24 hours or something, they still receive these important emails. Now the post booking page and the pre-call emails on their own are enough to get your show up rate to upwards of 70% and bring pre-sold leads to the call. However, the dialing process is the cherry on top, and this is where you enter the top 1% of the business. So this is a little advanced, but this is something that's going to make sure you stand out, and the systems that you actually require to not get to 30, 40, 50k a month, but 6 figures a month. So you see, the two systems I've just shared with you, the post booking page and the pre-call emails, are all static and impersonal. Of course, we can add some sort of personalizations, and that can be done through seeing the responses we received on the type form and maybe having different sequences. However, they still have limitations. The dialing process allows us to break free of these limitations and add that personalization. So here's what you actually do. Here's a complete process breakdown for you, right? First of all, hire a setter, dialer, who receives a notification as soon as somebody books a call on your calendar. Secondly, an automated text goes out from the dialer immediately before they go on and actually dial the lead. And on this automated message, what we are doing is that it sends them a message introducing the dialer or the setter as a person from the company or the program that you're selling, and it says their name. And the reason for that is that when they actually then dial them up, when they actually dial the number, it's going to appear not as an unknown caller, but the person with the name that we've just sent over the text message. And that's a tactic that can really increase our pickup rates. Then the dialer must dial within 5 to 10 minutes. The speed to lead over here matters the most. The dialer always double dials and follows up if they actually didn't pick up the first line. On this call, the lead will do the following things, right? First of all, you will confirm their booking. So they must confirm that, okay, you've just booked a call for this particular time. Does this work for you? Are you going to show up? You're going to get a yes. Then we qualify if the lead is actually legit, because people often lie on type forms. They might say they have a certain amount of investment ready, but they don't actually, and they just wanted to see, right, if they can get a bargain or something. So we want to make sure if the lead is actually legit and if they're qualified. Then we introduce closer and do some basic discovery. So we want to introduce the closer, which is that, okay, hello John, Jeremy is going to take your call. So we actually introduce him, and then we do some basic discovery. We're not going to go in depth. We don't want to make this call too long for us. However, we're going to do some basic discovery. And the main question that you're going to ask is that, okay, what stage with whatever mechanism that you're selling? So for example, what stage of dropshipping you're currently at? And you're going to ask for the biggest problems why they're not at a further stage. So after the dialer actually dials the lead, this is what's going to happen. So first of all, after the call, dialer shares all relevant info that he collected on this call or the recording of this call with the closer, so that he has more context and knows this information when he actually hops on the call with the lead. Secondly, we're going to send them specific resources, piece of content, case study, extremely relevant to whatever information it is that they shared with us. Then the third thing is that the closer gets in contact with the lead and send a 1-minute selfie video. Now, if your closer is a A player, and if you are not super busy and don't have ton of leads, I do recommend that the closer should actually record a personalized 1-minute video depending on the information he just got for the lead. However, what we do in some other places is that we simply automate this. So we make our closer record a 1-minute video, and then we personalize it by saying their name through AI and send them the automated message. But this should come from a separate number for the closer. Then the fourth thing is the closer uses the information shared to hop on the closing call with additional context and speed up this process. The reason why this dialing process is worth it, all the headache and all the additional effort, is because of the following reason. First of all, it takes advantage of the powerful law of reciprocity. And here's what I want you to think about. So when it comes to, let's say you are traveling to a new city and you book a hotel. Now your experience of that hotel does not only depend on the actual stay, but what happens before and after, and the entire experience and the entire interaction. So for example, if you're traveling to this new hotel, and as soon as you make a reservation, somebody calls you and they say, I just want to make sure, do you have any pets? Yeah, I do have a pet. I have a dog. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that you're upgraded to this pet friendly room, and just so that when you actually arrive, you are not having any complications or issues, and you can just check into your room. How is that going to make you feel? That's king treatment, and that is going to just overall experience of your hotel. It's going to up it up, and you're going to experience a law of reciprocity, because you're going to notice that these hotel person or manager or the hotel is actually putting in effort. They actually care. And if there is some minor inconvenience, for example, you arrive and you can not immediately find a parking spot, you'll be much more likely to, forget about it because of the goodwill that's actually accumulated. So it takes advantage of this powerful law of reciprocity. It also puts the prospect guard down through the law of familiarity, because when we contact them and then the closer introduces themselves and the closer then also sends them a 1-minute video, they're already aware of the person. They have seen their face, they've listened to their voice, and that's why it's not their first interaction on the actual sales call. They're actually aware of the person before hopping on that call, and because of that they're going to let their guard down and be more comfortable. Third thing is that it mimics the 2-call close without actually increasing the sales cycle. So there are a lot of benefits to the 2-call close because it makes the close easier, but the problem is that it makes the sales cycle longer. With this, we get the benefits, but we don't increase the sales cycle. Fourth thing is that we increase chances of showing up significantly by getting a verbal commitment from them. They verbally committed and said yes that I'm going to show up. Fifth is that we have additional qualification because people lie on type forms. And sixth is that it allows us to use the closer's calendar as efficiently as possible, because you're going to realize as you scale your info business that it is going to become a bottleneck. When you have a lot of leads, your closer and your slots on the calendar becomes a bottleneck. And so that's why we want to make sure we can utilize their time as efficiently as possible by only having leads which are very, very high intent and actually ready to buy. Finally, the last pillar, to tie it all together. So we discussed the metrics, which is what we are trying to do. We then talked about content to increase our views, our conversion rate, our qualified application percentage. We talked about the sales system. We talked about once the actual lead comes and fills out the application, we make sure they book a call, we make sure they show up, we make sure they're closed. And now we're going to tie it all together through a team that can actually sustain it and maintain it, because this is the last missing piece to our 6-figure per month info business. Once we have all the systems in place and everything is dialed in, what becomes the biggest bottleneck is the actual people running the business, because your business is only as good as the people running it. And so our goal over here with our sales team is to maximize the team performance while keeping them motivated so we can sustain it. And the way we do it is by first of all understanding a very simple thing. Don't sell air. So if you're watching this video and your program, the product, the coaching that you're offering is shitty, you have never accomplished the thing that you're teaching to people and you're scamming people, please click off this video, because no matter what strategy I give you, no matter how good the marketing is, you're never going to be able to make and sustain a good business. When you actually have a good product and you know that you're the best in the market, and you know that whatever it is that you're selling is actually providing value to your audience and also going to get them results, then you're never going to feel bad about actually selling it. In fact, you're going to feel it like it's your responsibility, because you can actually help your ICB. You can actually help these people out. And that same conviction that you have transfer over to your sales team as well. If they're selling a shitty product that they know won't help anyone, then simply they won't have that conviction, and people are going to feel it through the screen. Whether you like it or not, that's the reality. Now, we come to business, of course, don't get me wrong, to make money, and there's nothing wrong with it. However, you should always have a mission, something that you stand for beyond money, because A players want to be a part of a movement and see themselves making an impact. The only reason they're actually going to stay is because they like the team culture, which I'm going to show you how to build, and also they are seeing the impact that they're making on the people's life, and there's a mission behind this whole thing. So no matter how good the salesman, if you give them shit to sell, nobody is going to buy it. So make sure that you actually have a good product and you've done the things that you're talking about. Then let's get into building the team culture. So there's 4 most important stuff. If you do these stuff, I'm going to tell you that you're going to have a better running company that you're going to love, and people who are working in this company is going to work more than 99% of the info business out there. The first one is track their performance. If you don't track it, how are you supposed to improve it? Remember that the goal is to maximize their performance, but how are we supposed to maximize their performance if we don't even know how they're performing? So that's why when we set up the tracking system, for example, in this offer as well, when I came into the offer, my client wasn't tracking anything. And so we set up this tracking sheet which tracks all the KPIs, plus we can see which YouTube video exactly the lead comes from, which specific piece of content or email that we sent, or on what specific date, what are the objection, why didn't somebody buy, as well as we can track everything by closer or by sales rep or by dialer. So if we have multiple dialers especially, or multiple closers, then the second thing is building healthy competition. When they're going to be able to visualize this data and see that, okay, this person has made this much in commission and this is the average close rate they're maintaining, and my close rate is lower, then it's automatically going to build this healthy competition. The third thing is set goals and targets. So apart from having a long-term vision, a mission, as I said before, which you should also have short-term goals, something that you're trying to achieve right now, something that we are trying to aim for. So that is our short targets. Not only that, but we should also have individual targets for our sales rep. So for example, we want to help them increase their close rate from 25 to 30%. And that's an individual target they might have. Or they want to, retire their parents by a certain date. Individual targets, right? Set them up. Fourth thing is build personal bond. Probably the most important. Because you should do more than just business with your team. And I know that this goes against a lot of the advice that people give you, but we are not building a $1 billion company. We are making an info business that will print 6 figures and hopefully get scaled to 7-figure $1 million a month soon. And for this business specifically, as a coach, you as the business owner, you're always going to work with these people, these sales reps. So if you don't have a personal bond with them, if you guys are not connecting, hanging out, have more than just transactions, and actually care about each other, for example, challenging each other on fitness or family values, stuff like that. So make sure you have that personal bond so that they're addicted to stay into your business. Now, how are we actually going to do this and make sure we maximize the performance is through weekly group calls. The way we continue building our team culture and maximize our team performance is through 2 to 3 weekly calls, in addition to having, of course, a fully built out Discord or Slack channel. So there is a Discord or Slack channel. It should have multiple channels within it, and you already know it by now. For example, whenever somebody books a call, or whenever there's a new application, or whenever there's a new payment, there should be these different channels or general chat and stuff. But on these weekly calls, I usually like to have 2 to 3 weekly calls with the sales rep. And what we do is these weekly calls do the following things. First of all, we review the numbers and analyze the performance. We just go through the week. What are the revenue we generated? What's the close rate, show up rate? What are the numbers for every single rep? And we analyze the performance of every single person. Secondly, we hold everyone accountable for the week ahead. What is it that each one has their duty, or what is each one trying to do and accomplish, and what's on their plate? We put it in front of them. We don't assume that people know them. Third is building connection and bringing energy to the team. And this is important because you're going to set the bar. You're going to bring the energy. And we want to make sure that everyone is hyped up. It's fun. You should be excited about doing business and making money. So make sure you set that standard and set that energy level. Fourth thing probably, the main purpose, the very important, is sales training and pointing out the room for improvements for our sales side. So I like to separate the calls into two. So you can have the accountability / performance analysis, which does the first three things, and then you should have a separate sales training or review calls. When it comes to the sales training, you should have sales calls for both your closers and your setters / dialers. And in order to actually do this stuff, you should know what you're talking about and have a grasp over sales and human psychology and stuff. If you don't know this stuff, you can't advise them on anything. Now, what are we actually doing? So here's the exact step-by-step scenario. First thing is that for each rep, take a call or few calls over the past week that are calls that didn't went the way they were supposed to. So the lead didn't closed, or if it is a dialer, they hung up on them, or simply it wasn't a qualified lead and the dialer still, didn't cancel the call, whatever it is. You take one or few calls. Secondly, review the call and especially look out for the objections and the main reason the prospect didn't buy. So for example, the main objection that stopped them, that a closer was unable to actually get through, we look out for them. Then we are going to ask the rep what they think was the mistake they made and also suggest improvements or better replies that they should have made in that particular scenario. So we're going to ask them first, and then we're going to suggest them and advise them on what's a better response, what they should have done better or differently. Fourth is we're going to role play it. So we're going to, you're going to be the prospect and you're going to ask the sales rep to repeat what you just advised them on and make sure that they follow your advice. This is also great for us to look at the common objections, patterns, and input from our reps to continuously update and improve the marketing and sales systems that are on the back end. So our pre-calls emails, the post-booking page, the disarming videos that we had on there, we want to continuously update them with new objections, new questions that are coming up, and we do them through actually information that we receive on these calls. With that, you have the proper content ecosystem, the sales systems to scale them, and a team that actually can sustain it. And so I don't sell info. That's why I gave you everything that I know without holding anything back, that you need to build a call funnel that actually is profitable and can scale you to 6-figure months if you implement it correctly. And that's why if you're a coach, consultant, or a business owner who want to start selling info or scale their info offer, and you feel a little overwhelmed by how to actually implement all of this, or you simply don't want to do it and you want to play to your strengths and stick by the high leverage activity that is actually important for your business, and hand over all of this stuff to me and my team to do it for you, completely done for you, then there is a link down below and you can book a call with me, and we will basically do all that I just mentioned, from the setting up your content strategy, building your entire sales systems, back end, writing all the emails, writing your VSLs, hiring, training, managing reps, all of that stuff and much more, and scaling you with webinars and launches and paid ads eventually. Then you should book a call down below and I'll do it completely done for you so that you don't have to worry about this stuff. All right, so this was a long one. Took me a long time to make. So if you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe because there's a lot coming up. Also, that if you want to connect with me or you have any other questions, you can always follow me on IG and leave your DM. I'm not promising anything, but I'll try my best to get back to you. Until next time.